Yeah. It's easy to get bogged down, for sure.
And it's 6:30 on the dot.
I'm gonna let the state in too for a second. I'm gonna have to talk to
Are
them.
we all set to go, Russ?
Let me. Let's see if I can get the state in. It's being difficult.
You're excused. Was that
It's a
something?
good thing we have microphones.
That was great. Another bodily function, right, that God
We're
gave us.
initializing. There may be a miracle, it might work.
I'm glad we got you to take care of this, man.
Oh, me
I'm glad we
too.
got me to take care of it too.
Yeah.
It makes me paranoid, but if it doesn't work,
No,
then
yeah, you do a great job. All this stuff requires a lot of knowledge and patience.
Yes.
Mm.
Well, look,
Some of us have a little of each, and some of us have not.
Yeah, when you see the computer go out the window, that's really not a good idea, is it?
Sometimes it is.
That's right.
I just wanna tell them they can hold for a second while we're,
Who the hell is the district engineer?
should we do the rest of our stuff? I mean, the rest of the intro stuff?
yeah, you can do your intro stuff.
Like calling to order and attendance?
I'm just trying.
Okay, let's get this show on the road here.
Sounds good.
First off is attendance. So
Susan Young's present.
Craig Fournier, present.
Paul King, present. and
Marlo, oh, Marlo Herrick, I think I'm present.
And are you accounted for?
Just gonna be, whoop,
All right, so we have
it's gonna be
quorum
1
tonight.
second, we gotta wait for one agenda item first, and then you guys are up right next.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yep, I let them know.
Thank, who?
Oh, they're on, I
They're
let
waiting
them
for us
know,
to
they're
do
waiting
the
for our
first
first
thing.
agenda item.
Oh,
Cause we have the
okay.
driveway discussion.
All right, let's talk about Mr. DeBella's driveway. Do you have a?
So if you wanna
state-
come up, you can come up too.
Yeah, come
No,
on.
just where would you like?
Yeah, anywhere.
We're friends, we don't
Throw it out in the
bite.
face?
We don't bite.
Yeah.
No, I'm not worried about that.
You might not want to
Go too
Yeah, I
far
might
into
not
the
go
right.
directly into the,
Did you get a state permit for the for the cut?
We put an application in November 17th for it, and they've refused.
And that
to
was
respond.
last year, right?
November, yeah, that's 21.
Yeah.
I've sent multiple voicemails and emails to the district engineer and the other two assistants. Like Russell's put calls in. I'm just not getting anything. My surveyor, I didn't do the application, my surveyor did it when we did the subdivision,
Right.
same guy. I'm getting no responses, he's getting no responses, Russell's gotten no responses.
No.
Or have you gotten a response? I should ask you.
I talked to them, but they basically didn't tell me what was going on with it. They said the planning board can do what it wants with the driveway application. So whether we want to enforce it or not, that's up to us.
That was, okay, I don't know what the issue is.
Wow.
I spoke to the former owners, the Russells,
Yep,
friends with them and the Fosses and all them, and the Osbornes. They went through the same issue back 10, 12 years ago when they did the shared driveway with
Yeah.
the same person. They had the same issue.
So-
So I don't know what to do. As you can tell now, we did the subdivision. You see
Yep.
now the house is up for sale. We've had a divorce situation come up, so I need to do something.
okay.
So I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do.
Do you have any comments, Paul?
I suppose the board can override that rule that says we have to have the state permit before we can issue a town permit.
Well, it says you need both in the driveway regulations. but it doesn't say you need the state permit to get the town permit, it just says you need both permits eventually.
Do you have any thoughts, recommendations?
I mean, I checked the location, the surveyor did it, meets the site distances. I talked to my neighbor Mike, he's gonna let me trim if I need to trim anything. And I put it in how Emmett wants it for the most part right now, until I just get a little more money and some time to finish, but
Well,
it's-
Emmett had a thought on
pretty
it, that it
close
might
to
be, you might be having the same problem we're having with the safety building, is that we have too many cuts to put in another driveway. So the way the state permitting works for driveways is it's as the lots were in 1971.
Yep.
And it seems like there's already 3 cuts on that stretch of road. There's one by the barn that seems to be mostly removed.
What's
And
on my
then-
property or the safety barn?
I'm sure there's the barn right there on
Were
the
you talking
corner.
about my property?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
town?
Yeah, your property, the barn.
So, no,
And then there's 2 going to the house. So I don't know if
Yeah, you
that's
have-
the
you
issue
have the
that's
horseshoe
holding you
going-
up.
I got the horseshoe and that's all I have.
Yeah, but you,
The barn
that's all you
one?
have because you subdivided.
Well, yes, but the barn
Yeah.
one doesn't count because that was removed 10 years ago when they did the Osborne one.
Okay.
That was an issue I had with the DOT when they did come out and talk to me. He threw that in my face saying, you've got 5 driveways. You can't ask for more. I'm like, I have the circular one. He said, well, Osborne's counts. I'm like, oh, okay, if you say so, it came off the lot. He said, you got the barn, you got that break in the rock wall. I was like, no, there's a 2-foot ditch in front of them. And he goes, well, yeah, I pulled those out 10 years ago and did the other permit. I was like, so why are you telling me I have 5? So that's how the whole conversation was with that gentleman. And then I'm waiting for written responses and they won't give me anything. So technically, according to, I just have the circle,
Yeah.
which, you know, if we gotta go, they're pre-71, from what I understand, 1971 dated. I don't think they technically count. I'm happy to close the one that's uphill. So, you know, if they say I need less,
Well, we don't know what the state wants.
What
No.
is it-
That's
Which one
part
is
of the
uphill?
problem.
that one, so,
The one you just
the one,
opened up?
no, the one further from the barn, in the circle,
In a circle?
the one that's further from the barn.
Oh, okay, okay.
You know, if
So
they
more or
want-
less you'd have the one that
But you-
goes into your, the
Correct,
garage.
yeah, that way it goes in the
Yeah,
front of the garage.
But you
Yes.
won't own that anymore, do you? You
Well, I
can't-
still own the house.
You still own the house?
Yeah, I still own the house.
You can still close that driveway
Yeah,
off?
yeah, I still own it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's sold
Oh, you
yet.
have, in other words, you haven't sold it yet?
Yes, no, it's not sold yet.
Okay.
No, it's, the market has
Well, that
changed.
might be in your favor if you can close one of them off.
Well, we don't know if that's what they
Yeah, we
require,
I don't
we
know what the
because they're
requirement.
not
If
answering.
it's
Without-
pre-71, I shouldn't have to.
Without any input from the state, we can't make a decision. We can't say, do this, do that, whatever.
I will make a comment that whether we approve it at this meeting or we don't approve it at this meeting or whatever we do, you need to put some asphalt, at 3 feet of asphalt in front of that driveway, but where it meets the road.
Yep, I know that. Oh, I'm letting that.
Well, right now, your trucks coming in and out, they're tearing up that road,
No, they're not tearing up the road.
okay?
No, that asphalt was all alligator long before I even came near that.
Well, they're gonna be
Nope.
coming through and give you a new,
Well, that looks at it and that's great, and I will find to do the 3 feet, I don't mind doing the apron, I just letting it pack down for,
yeah.
you know, a couple months. We've had some rain.
Well, we can't approve any kind of a driveway until we get that asphalt
I
down.
think you'll have that next week with the state even.
I'm not sure when they're coming through to do it, but there's gotta be 3 feet of asphalt into your driveway, at least 3 feet.
Oh, I don't have a
So-
problem with that, I'm just, like I said, I'm just letting it pack down because it's
So-
still fresh.
Any suggestions here? I mean, does anybody have any ideas? What you want to do?
Happy to help and do whatever, I mean, I'm exhausted, I've exhausted what?
Yeah.
What's
And I
that,
think
what was
you've got
Emmett's,
very,
and no more comments from Emmett on,
Well, that was Evan's comment about the driveway,
Yeah.
and
What did Emmett need?
he,
Sorry.
that was Emmett's comment, was that he thought that was why, I mean, I can't speak for Emmett, but that's what I discussed with him, he thought that might be the reasoning why it was denied.
but he had no comment.
But it was
on
not,
that.
it wasn't denied, because we have no
Oh,
denial.
that's right, we haven't gotten an answer,
No,
which
and
is
I
kind
think
of the
this
big
is,
problem.
Oh, I've got
this to
no-
me is, huh?
Oh, I've gotten no notification.
Yeah, this is
I did not
ridiculous.
withdraw and I did not deny. Would not deny.
I just, this to me
Yeah.
is ridiculous.
yeah.
And it's
I-
wrong, personally,
So,
but,
what would you favor?
well, I mean, you've looked at it, your only issue is right now that he needs to have a certain amount of pavement. I don't know why we couldn't give him a approval contingent.
We could give him a construction permit, but we can't give him the final.
Right.
Right.
I mean, that might be something
Well,
you could
fine.
do, is
I-
give him the construction and not grant him the final until he's got the state permit.
And that's good for 2 years.
What is that?
The
Do for me,
construction
Donald?
permit's good for 2 years.
Right, understood, thank you.
Well, that means you're not in violation of the town's ordinance
No,
by
that's
starting
great.
construction
And that
prior
means-
to getting the construction
Can I
permit.
get in the, can I apply for the 911 address and things like that with the construction
So,
You-
that's
nobody's
gonna
have
be
a-
an entirely dicey part, because if you can't get a driveway permit for the house, which means you're gonna need that state permit, you're gonna need that even before you can apply for a building permit. You need to get the state's permit. Cause if you can't have an address, then
Do I
you
have to get
can't.
a lawyer then for them?
I'm not sure what you're gonna have to do to get the state to follow through, but we need to see something that they're eventually gonna let you have that driveway.
Okay.
I mean, I apologize, but, I mean, I feel bad about it, but we
Me
need to make
too.
sure as a town
Thanks.
that that's a legal driveway before we can put a building permit there.
I've never heard, I mean, when we log, a lot of times we have to
Yeah.
do like a temporary, you know, and I just have never, I don't even know how this is possible that you applied, and they're not even, I mean, I know it's possible, because you're telling us it's possible, but I'm just saying that this is, I mean, is there anything we can do to help
Left
out?
messages
I
with
mean,
the
I mean, I've
district
already
engineer
called a
to
couple
assistance.
times, I can try calling again.
Have you
Yeah.
completed your
Maybe we
driveway
can
all the
send
way
a
up to
formal
the
letter,
field?
have the select board send a
I'm
letter.
not going all the way out to the
Yeah,
field
to
because
the state
do that.
asking what's going on.
yeah, I mean, this
Like
is,
halfway, 3/4 of the way, I got a little landing out there, but
Okay,
it's
so you-
completed out to there.
All right, so you,
It's all
well,
circular, I got circular at the end and
yeah,
everything like that.
so you're still going through that wetland area with your culvert and all of that?
No, I'm not out in the wetlands.
You're not into that wetland area yet?
No.
You're not going that far out?
I'm not sure where you're talking about.
Well, when we walked that, there was a lot of wetness, so we told you had to put a culvert in.
Yeah, I removed the old culvert, but a new culvert right there, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I did take care of that.
And then it's going all the way out to where we discussed?
I'm not going out, the driveway's not going all the way out like we discussed.
It's not, okay.
No, I cut it back.
All right, so what is?
I got the price of electric,
What
so
is the length of your driveway then?
800 and some feet.
Right, so you're still gonna need at least one bump up.
Yeah, and I have one.
Okay.
It's not
It'll
finished.
be on, as you're coming into your driveway, it'll be on this side.
No, it'll be on the other side of that.
So,
I believe
Um,
Emmett wants them on this side, on the right-hand
And
side.
want, and I understand that, but that's the upside
Mhm.
where the ditch is and all the water comes from. So I put it on the other side where it's flat and it's
why does it
literally
matter
flat.
which side the bump comes out?
Well, it doesn't matter, maybe not on, looking at it that way, but when they bring a fire truck in, they wanna be able to park it on this side and let another one come through. Rather than on this side, then the people that are working on the fire truck are out in the middle of the road. One of the reasons why Emmett wants them on.
I understand what
The
he's
right-hand
saying,
side.
but you're talking
If
on
it's
the
not-
uphill side, and it's not in the requirements to be
yeah,
able to
it's
correct.
not in the requirements.
But there's gonna be plenty of room and ample for people to pull around and I'll have to pull
Plus,
off.
the great news is you can see it's pretty straight. It's not
Oh,
like-
yeah, I didn't realize how straight
And
it
they can
is.
talk with each other.
Yeah,
I
you
still
can
see the
s-
street.
You can see, see traffic.
I'm disappointed about that. That's my bad.
Well, I would suggest that we issue a construction permit, temporary good for 2 years, and we'll revisit this in 2 years. I'd like to see,
Well, let's hope it's not gonna be 2 years.
Well,
Yeah.
until we can get, I mean, what, like he just said, the select board's gonna send a letter. I mean, to
Well,
me, well, we talked about.
We could do a
it.
joint letter with the planning board. and the
Yeah,
select
yeah,
board, maybe.
and say, hey, you know, our resident wants to have a driveway permit. I mean, this is
Okay.
101, what America's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I don't, and I can't imagine if any of us didn't get back to somebody on the state side or whatever, we'd all be in trouble. So it just isn't right.
I mean, it doesn't matter what the, well, I mean, you matters to you what the answer is. To us, we just wanna know where we have to move forward from here.
Well, I mean, hopefully they don't
Hopefully
come
it's
up with
yes.
something that they don't want you to move it. You know, that's would be
No,
my.
I've confirmed it is in an appropriate location. So I have the site distance. I finally got him that day when they came out. He refused to even go up there and look at it, is how difficult the gentleman was. Got him to go up there, he confirmed with the person he was with that, yes, it meets the 400. It meets where it is. It's the best location on that, on my property to have it. The only thing he said is I would need to get permission from my neighbor, Mike, to just clear some of the brush by the rock wall, which, that's pretty easy.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
So I mean, for location wise, it's,
I'm gonna make a motion that we grant a construction permit valid for 2 years and also that we send a letter from Select Board, Planning Commission, and if we don't get some action from the state, I think we should call the representatives
Mm-hmm.
in the State House.
well, thank you.
Agreed.
Russell, you have a
You want
copy
a
of the
second?
application?
Yes, I
Oh,
second
sorry.
that. Very much.
No, I can
Just-
grab that after, we can get it signed, and then I can email it to you, or.
Oh, no, I have, ours is, with my town one signed, it should be signed and done. I meant a copy of the state one, so you have, I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay. I
So
was
we
just,
have to vote.
Yes. Are there any, well, we have to discuss.
Yep, any more discussion?
Any more discussion?
That's it?
All in favor?
got a second, who seconded?
Aye.
I
Yeah,
second
Mark
it. I
seconded.
second it. Marlo second.
Okay.
Well, thank
you
you so
got
much.
it.
Appreciate the help. If you guys get some responses, please let me know. I know Russell will, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to do, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah, well, we don't need it.
It's a unique situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wrong.
All right, well, thanks. Anything else?
Nope.
No?
Nope,
Alright,
that's it.
Well, good, cool.
I'll stop in and tomorrow, if I can get in before you close, and make sure you got the town driver one signed.
Yeah, I mean, I can try, because we're gonna have to get Emmett to sign it too, because Emmett's his own side of this, we hopefully get Emmett to sign it. The planning board, you're fine with signing it, right? Paul?
Yep.
If I bring it up tonight.
Considering the hardship he's gone through, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
We've already been out there, we've walked it, so.
Much
The only
drier.
question I'm gonna have is whether Emmett's gonna be happy with the pump out on the wrong side of the road. But
Well, we can ask
Hopefully
Emmett.
I can twist Emmett's arm a little bit on that one.
Okay.
Hopefully. Thanks a lot.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Y'all have a great night.
Sorry about the wait. I'm gonna turn
Oh,
you
no. Oh,
over to the planning board.
Take care.
Hi.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to see everybody. Well, they'll
I
see
mean,
me.
you're gonna miss these beautiful faces.
Yeah.
Oops, we gotta unmute him,
Hopefully
right?
nobody,
Somebody's muted.
can everybody hear him? No, I can't hear them. Let me see, it might be Dana's computer, might be muted.
Hang on a sec.
Cause he's trying to get the sound working. I love technical difficulties. All right.
Oh, there's a mute sign.
Yep.
Like I think I like some cat.
All right. We should have sound.
Oh.
Still don't have sound. Oh my god.
Maybe they don't have theirs.
Are they muted or?
They can hear us?
Can you hear us? Okay.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, we're working on it. I'm working on it. I should have.
Yeah, well, they can hear us, they still could be muted.
Well, their microphone is on, according to
It is
that.
on the internal speaker. The volume is all the way up. All right. Let me see if I can log out of this. I have another computer here. And we'll see if this one will work. If-
It is amazing that it's not as hot in here as you would think it would be.
Yeah, it's not too
Yeah.
bad.
Really?
It's warmer
The
than,
fans
it's,
keeping it.
it's
Yeah.
colder than.
Keeping the air
Atlanta.
moving.
Yeah.
We've got kind of a basement and I'm going to sleep
Yeah.
there tonight.
My basement is nice without the air conditioning.
That's what, yeah, I know, I have friends that would move, for the summer, they move down in their basement
Yeah.
to sleep, yeah.
Yeah.
I usually get enough cross breeze that it's okay. Can always run a fan if I get desperate.
Well, with hot flashes and all, it's not pretty if I'm hot.
Yep.
Just jump in the pool.
Now that would be nice.
Well, I went swimming yesterday in Winnetonka.
Can't get into the other computer either.
You know, there's two rocks on the south side there.
Yeah.
and you park and you kind of walk through
Yeah.
the woods.
Official, you're not supposed to, but everybody does.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some really big pine, I don't know if you know it.
Yes, yes.
I don't know who owns that property. do you know?
Yeah, yes, I think is it the Osbornes? Not the Osbornes, the people that, all of the, yes, but yes, yeah. My mom has a place on that lake.
Well, what I'm thinking is that that would be a great parcel for the town to put in its own little, I mean, a public, we don't have a public.
I know, it's terrible.
Right.
And
Yes,
that would be the ideal spot.
Yeah.
They could put in some picnic tables.
You know who owns that? Where
This is
you,
not
where you
my
got the
favorite
public
day.
boat launch, and then you have,
You drive in that
yeah,
driveway.
where
There
the
we
rock
go.
is, the swimming rock.
Okay, I can hear some audio.
Oh, I heard something.
I heard something.
You heard?
Yeah,
Yes.
what happened?
I don't know what happened, but it's working.
Yay.
Yay.
That's it. You hit the right button, right? Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yes.
A miracle.
Hello, good evening. Well, do you want me to introduce myself?
Yes,
Or do I
please
just-
introduce yourself.
I'm afraid to touch
Your
it.
meeting, so I'm just here.
Can you fix it? so
That's
we
what I'm
see?
afraid of. I'm afraid of touching it.
Yeah.
Can't you just do the, don't remind
This
me
is-
again?
This is fine, this will work.
There.
There we go.
Okay, yeah, please introduce yourself.
You
Please,
can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Okay, please introduce yourself.
Perfect. Well, my name is Katie Nelson, and I work with the Floodplain Management Program at the New Hampshire Office of Planning and Development. And Jen?
I'm Jennifer Gilbert. I'm the Director of the Office of Planning and Development and also the Floodplain Management Program Administrator.
And I'm Craig Fournier, I'm the chairman of the planning commission, and this is,
Susan Youngs?
Paul King, Marlo Herrick.
and our renowned,
Everybody knows me. It's Russ.
Good old Russ over here.
okay. This is the first time most of us have looked at the floodplain stuff or become acquainted with it. So maybe you could give a little background on what the purpose of this is, how it sort of works, just kind of bring us up to speed at the moment, and then we can get into talking about changes and what happens after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned before, Jen and I both we work the floodplain management program within the Office of Planning and Development, and we are the state coordinating office of the National Flood Insurance Program. And throughout the state, communities, it's a voluntary program. They volunteer to join. Webster joined in 1986, I believe, was what I have written here. Yep, 1986. And through that, the community adopts floodplain regulations, and then in return, all residents in town are eligible to buy flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program. And the big thing with that is that traditional homeowners insurance does not cover flooding, and so that's kind of like the tie-up, they get the flood insurance, but then the town's doing their part to kind of mitigate potential flooding and damage from that.
So
So the whole way that this came about is that, periodically, with all the communities that participate in New Hampshire, we hold meetings. We hold community assistant contacts, or CAC meetings. And so we had one with Webster, kind of our regular, scheduled meeting every 5 or plus years. So we had that back in May. And through that meeting, we kind of, for lack of a better word, it's an audit, but we kind of just evaluate the community's program and see what technical assistance and guidance they need to move forward, and just make sure the programs to fulfill us. And so through that, we do an ordinance review. And so, I should say, the ordinance review is just the floodplain management section. So it's Article 9 of the zoning ordinance, and then any floodplain related content in the site plan and subdivision regulations. And so through that, we had a few comments to the floodplain regulations, and we passed those along. I don't know if the board had a chance to look at them prior to this meeting, or you kind of wanted to hear from us, hear the background, have answer questions, and then you look at it moving forward. But that's kind of is there any other questions related to that?
yes, I have a question. So if someone wants to build within a floodplain, can they do it? Can they get insurance?
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to build within we call them special flood hazard areas or flood zones. So if someone wanted to build within, they would have to follow the floodplain regulations, which is Article 9 of Webster's zoning ordinance.
But they could get insurance, right?
Yep, anybody in town can get insurance. No matter where you're located in the town of Webster, anybody can
Yeah,
get
well,
insurance.
isn't the purpose of this,
Flood
isn't the purpose of this to reduce liability for floodplain, floods, stuff? I mean, why would you give insurance to somebody in a flood zone if they're gonna get flooded out, right? I mean, that's a cost to the government or whoever.
Yeah, so the regulations, they cover areas called, like I said, the special flood hazard or flood zones. And so within that, there are certain standards that things are built to. So for example, there's like they're really based off the flood insurance rate maps. And so with that, it tells you there's been studies. So for example, in Webster, there's the Blackwater River. And so analysis by FEMA has been done for those flood insurance maps, the floodway, and the flood zones out. So within those areas, Webster's regulations, they set standards that are higher than, elsewhere for flood. So they call it the base flood elevation. So that's what FEMA has scientifically studied and calculated to be where the water would rise for that 1% annual chance flood. And so basically the floodplain regulations are ensuring that all, there's the logistics, but they're built above that, or built so if flooding was to happen, it would reduce damage, and then obviously the property and the surrounding properties and health, etc. Does that answer the question, or?
I don't know.
I know, I was gonna say me neither.
Honest answer.
It makes sense to me.
Well, maybe you can explain it to me.
My only question, I don't need to hold it. I think I'm loud enough. Can you hear me? Yeah. There, okay. Stupid little legs. The revised version we got with corrections, were those your corrections, your suggestions for corrections?
Yes, those were our suggestions. So those were based off of our new model ordinance that we have. This year ordinance was last updated probably at least in 2010, because that's when the most recent flood insurance rate maps were released. So we went through, this was based off our model, and these updates, there are a few different things. Some are just terminology changes that are trying to relate more, again, to those flood insurance maps. So for the board and for applicants coming in, there's no confusion with, the different terminology. It's kind of streamlining that. And then we have a couple other, you'll see throughout within the special flood hazard areas and recreational vehicles, a few updates there. A lot of that is based off compliance issues that we've found elsewhere in the state and recommendations. So we've incorporated that into our model, and thus these are our recommendations from the Office of Planning and Development for that section of your zoning.
Okay, all right. That was the question I had.
Yep.
So if someone wants to build in a floodplain, they're gonna pay higher rates than somebody who's building on a hill, is that correct?
Yeah, so the way that, flood insurance is calculated, so let's just say flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program, because obviously residents could purchase flood insurance through any other insurance carrier. It's more traditionally known that through the National Flood Insurance Program, it's more affordable, which is kind of one of the premise of this program. But so they utilize a pricing methodology called Risk Rating 2.0, and with that, there's like a Risk Rating 2.0 calculator. So what they do is there's all these different factors that go into that, that's very specific to each property, and that's how the flood insurance price, the premiums calculated. You would think, and it would make sense that obviously being in a flood zone and depending how the structure is built, the rate would be more expensive than somebody, say, on the very top of the hill, not near a water body at all, right? But
Thank you. So a 1% chance of flooding, that is the same thing as a 100-year flood? 100-year.
yes.
I mean, it's just change in language we're talking about here.
Yeah, FEMA's moving more towards using what they call the base flood elevation and the base flood. And again, the reason we recommend that change of language in the zoning ordinance that you've received is just because we're trying to match that language with what's on the flood insurance rate maps and match that language that FEMA is using, so it's just more streamlined and makes more, concise sense to both you guys on the board, the town staff, and also any applicants, that come forward. It's more straightforward.
Thank you.
So more or less, it's just words at this
Yeah.
point, right? It's not like anything's really changing.
Well, do you want to go through the changes briefly? I mean, we don't need to dwell on them a little bit, but if you could walk us through the changes, that would be good.
Do you guys have copies in front of you?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yep. So if you have them printed, I don't know if you have them in color, but so anything that was red and strike through obviously was recommended for us to remove, and then anything that's red text with like a highlight behind it, that was added text. So as you see going through, in first the definition sections, we had a couple definitions to add, remove, modify. So for example, adding the base flood elevation, that was a new term we recommend adding. Flood opening, again, flood opening is referenced later in this section of the ordinance, so it just makes sense to define that for both with the board, town applicants, etc. We recommend removing the functionally dependent use definition because it's not cited anywhere in that section of the ordinance, so why have a definition if it's not in there, right? Again, we're recommending, one of the big terminology changes you'll see is removing that 100-year flood and replacing it with the base flood and base flood elevation. So you'll see that throughout, that terminology. We updated the definition for substantial improvement. And so those were the definition changes. Moving through the other sections of Article 9,
Can I
you'll see,
ask a question?
just again, terminology changes. So for example,
Well, just a sec, we have a question here.
level, just to make it more
Yeah, just on the substantial.
You're gonna have to,
Oh, okay.
On the substantial improvements, is there a lot of terminology change in that, or what, why was that changed?
I think Jen can answer that because you were more involved in the change with that definition.
Yeah, this was just, I've been coordinator since 2005. This substantial improvement definition that we're suggesting get removed have been in there before, and what we're doing is bringing it back to more of what's in line with the Code of Federal Regulations. For some reason it differed. Our previous definition had differed from the Code of Federal Regulations, which is mainly where most of this language comes from. So,
Does it do anything substantially different, this change in language?
no, there was just some terminology that has been issues over the years with other communities, so we just decided to go back to the original version.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, it doesn't change anything.
thank you.
Yep. So continuing through, you'll see terminology changes again, replacing that 100-year flood with the base flood and base flood elevation, just to keep that terminology consistent with the flood insurance rate maps and also the terminology that FEMA is using. You'll see, for example, under section E, replacing the NGVD with mean sea level, just because there's a different vertical datum, so utilizing mean sea level makes it more consistent throughout. And then one of the two, I guess, more changes than just terminology is under section H, where it talks about special flood hazard areas. We did add in a section that is for areas in Zone A. So Zone A are where there's no, hydraulic study has not been done, so that base flood elevation is not known. It just puts in that it should be assumed it's at least 2 feet above the highest grade, so it just provides that extra guidance for those zone areas. And then the final change is we've added to the definition of recreational vehicles. Again, going back to that federal code of regulations, just to make it consistent with that as well.
So, why do you add or change the recreational vehicles? What's the purpose here?
Again, that was based off compliance issues that have been experienced in other communities in trying to make that more streamlined, and then also matching it up with that federal code of regulations. as well, so it's consistent.
So, I mean, I'm still having a little trouble understanding this. Give me an example. So somebody has a recreational vehicle jacked up in the yard. Is that covered by insurance or not?
Well, so what it refers to in the zoning ordinance is recreational vehicles that are located in those special flood hazard areas. And what the ordinance is really saying is that, like, for example, it says it needs to be on site for fewer than like 90 consecutive days. It needs to be fully licensed, needs to be on wheels or jacking systems, attached to the site only by a quick disconnect. And again, that's only in those special flood hazard or flood zones. And that's because, again, if there, say, was a flood in the flood zone and like a recreational vehicle just sitting there, it could be damaged, or it could itself be carried by floodwaters and damage to other property, other structures, potential cause of death or something to life of others. So again, it's not saying that you need to have it, like those structure or recreational vehicles need insurance. It's just saying that recreational vehicles in those flood zones, for, like their standards for how they need to be built or be able to be moved quickly in case of a flood.
So what was striked out in this was ready for highway use, and it's not clear what exactly ready for highway use is, so that's why we expanded it and just got rid of the ready for highway use and just explained what that means. By being on wheels, it cannot be attached to structures.
Mhm.
It has to be ready to drive out.
The big waters come.
You wanna move your stuff?
You'd be amazed at some of the RVs that I've found that have structures attached to it, and
I can imagine.
clearly not ready for highway use.
Okay, thank you.
And then the only other thing that we had is there is certain language that's required in both subdivision and site plan regulations. And Webster had the majority of it, but there was one sentence, this is the last section in kind of my print off I did, that was missing, and so we just included that in there as well, because that would need to be added in.
So our job is to approve these changes?
So we would have to go through, like we did for the wetland ordinance, for the changes to the zoning ordinance, and it would have to have two public hearings.
Why two?
Well, it's the one public hearing, and then if there's any changes, then we have to have a second public hearing. And do the whole thing again, like we did last year. And for the site plan and subdivision regulations, I believe you can amend those just with a public hearing.
And in terms of enforcement, it's up to the zoning board of adjustment to enforce these.
Well,
correct?
so that is enforced through my office in the land use department.
Okay.
So,
Well, they mentioned here the zoning board of adjustment.
well, the zoning board does the appeals. So,
Oh. And then there's a lot of language in here about the building inspector. And Webster, unfortunately, has a part-time building inspector on demand. We don't have a full-time building inspector. So, unless something comes to his attention, unless we bring something to his attention, it never gets dealt with.
well,
Yeah, that's something that happens in a lot of towns.
we do send them out for new stuff.
Yeah, but, I mean,
Existing
we
stuff,
can go around and look at
right.
RVs in and around
Right.
town.
But if somebody is going to apply for, say, a building permit, or they're applying for an addition in the flood zone, we would send the building inspector out to make sure it's in compliance. And then they would work with me in the office to make sure that they put permits in that were compliant, because they did give me a template for the permit. So now it's a lot clearer what I'm supposed to be asking for and I watched some of their trainings on it, and it does make sense. It's just a matter of figuring out the information and going through the process.
Okay, so you're the de facto building inspector.
Well,
I'm
Well, they have to follow these regulations.
right.
right. We all have to follow regulations.
Exactly, and if they don't, and there's a flood, they're gonna not qualify, I would assume. if they get damaged. They won't. So,
I'm not sure how the insurance works. I'm
Me
just trying to manage
Yeah.
this part.
but that's not.
Yeah, I mean,
so-
they would still be covered if they had flood insurance. There could be some issues that come up if it was non-compliant, but essentially the flood insurance will cover it. We're just trying to make sure that communities remain in good standing with the regulations right now.
Yeah.
So there's, at the last page, there's a site plan review regulations, and they're talking about subdivisions. Would you want to address that?
So this language, it needs to be included in both site plan review and subdivision regulations. And that's set forth by the federal regulations that has to be included for participating communities. And that's, a lot of towns will just take that language and put it in with their other. So within your site plan and subdivision regulations for Webster that we reviewed, you have like a flood section that talks about, like special flood hazard areas and such. So this few lines were just missing from that need to be in there.
That's pretty easy to do.
It's easy to do, but any changes require the same process.
Well, no, this one, for site plan and subdivision regulations, we only need to do a public hearing. It doesn't need to go to the whole town for a vote. So we just say, if we're gonna do it at the next meeting, we say we're doing a public hearing to amend the site plan and subdivision regulations, and then we add that bulletin point in.
Okay, that's doable.
Yeah, it's a lot
That
easier
would
than
not
going
be-
to a town vote.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, any other comments, suggestions, discussion?
I have no questions.
What is happening, this language in here, we don't really have a right to say, no to this.
If they
right?
want to get flood insurance.
And they wanna get flood insurance, right? So it's not like we're not like making a decision off of your recommendations to limit people, per se. This needs to be followed anyways, correct? Do I get that understanding? Okay, thank you.
That's
Just wanna make sure I'm
correct.
not missing anything.
Yeah. And what we can do is, we have standard warrant article language that basically explains why these changes have to be made. And it's, I've been doing this for a while now, and it hasn't been an issue in the past.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you for all your attendance and your answer to our questions. I think we're going to have a public hearing on this, and then if you could give us the language for the warrant article.
I would appreciate it.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
would appreciate it. And we'll put it on the agenda for the March town meeting.
All right, great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Safe ride, everyone, tonight.
You too.
What'd you say?
She said safe drive, everybody.
Oh, yes.
All
A
right.
5-minute one.
Let's turn this off.
I got 10.
Bye.
Bye.
I thought it was funny. Cracked myself up.
That wasn't too bad.
No,
Well, I think
I
as long
mean-
as, I think it was, even what just happened to that guy with his driveway, we're not supposed to be God and policing of everything. I just, we don't wanna change something that's gonna mess people up or their property.
Well,
This
But I don't think
actually,
we have, that's not what we're doing, we're just making sure people get their insurance properly,
Right.
right?
My
and
thing
this is
is-
clarifying any.
we already have these regulations.
Yes,
in the
so
book.
we're good, okay.
They already exist, we just have to update them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yes, we don't really like people building in a flood zone, but if they do, they have to follow all the rules. Like, if they're likely to get steady water, they're gonna have to have a foundation that lets water in and back out. And
I don't know why, this is a personal opinion, I don't know why I've got any.
Most people in that area
Well,
would
you'd
put
be
in the sump pump.
surprised.
Right. But, yeah.
The flood insurance should be so high that people would think twice about building them.
Right.
Yep.
But
That's not
that-
our issue.
I know, it's not within our purview.
I noticed in here that it's like $25 for $25 for every $100 of valuation. That's gonna get steep.
Yeah, it is. Let's see, 100,000, that would be 25,000.
Yeah? $25 for every 100 is 25%, so if it's 100,000, it's
25 grand.
25,000.
A year?
Flood insurance up to amounts as high as $25 for $100 of insurance.
Sounds like my workman's comp.
And if that, it might not be that high if the flood zone they're in is, not likely to get.
Right, it says up to 25.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it might be much less, but,
Yeah.
I mean, again, they're doing all their testing and scientific, and as we watch the news every day,
yeah.
we don't know that anybody really knows.
Trying to figure out where it's
Yeah.
likely. Where I grew up along the Mississippi, there was an island. And reliably, every couple of years, it flooded.
Right.
And finally, the federal government said, you cannot rebuild here. Duh.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and what we're dealing with is so different than you watch the ocean fronts or in California where they lose their houses right off so,
Yeah.
anyways, okay.
Well, we do get some pretty big flash floods around here. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't last long, but they can do a lot of damage
Yeah.
and wipe out a lot of roads and.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what do we need to do?
So,
Do we have to approve this, or do we just,
so we probably should at a meeting, I don't know if we wanna wait till Addie's here and do the approval, or up to the board to
Well,
approve their
can
language
can we schedule a public hearing like next meeting?
for the subdivision regulations.
Whatever
No,
we
I
have to have a
think-
public meeting for, I think he's saying.
I'm talking about the flood, this
Yeah.
changes to the floodplain.
Well, I think we first have to adopt the changes as the board.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we adopt the changes suggested by the
Office.
OPD?
Yeah. New Hampshire Office of Strategic Initiatives Floodplain Division.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Paul? Paul?
Yeah, I'm listening.
You voting for or against?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. And can we schedule a hearing next meeting, public hearing on this?
I'll see what I can do. I think.
And then what about changes?
I just gotta make sure we have enough time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go check that tomorrow, and then I'll send you an email. If we have a time to do it, I'll schedule it, if we don't have time.
that's-
I just have to
we-
count my days.
Do we have a time limit on this?
It just has to be before the next town meeting, so we can put it on the warrant.
I mean, we did our best to push the other one through, and it didn't make it at town meeting, because there wasn't enough time involved to do a job properly. I just don't want, if you do the same thing with this, it ain't gonna go past.
Yeah, well, we my opinion is you can only, as a board, can only put it forward. You've done your best to get it adopted. If the town decides not to do it, you cross that bridge when you get there.
yeah, if these were controversial changes, that would be another story, but it seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, I mean, every time I ask the question, what was going to be, unless they're not.
These are not really new regulations, they've been here all along.
And they follow
It's-
along with what we already have in place.
Right.
It's just clarifying some things, changing wording so that it agrees with what's done on the flood insurance forms and,
Right, and do you see anything that's weird?
Also, we can maybe invite them to come to the public hearing. So
Yeah,
if people have
absolutely.
questions, they can ask.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm sure they probably would show up. That's the other reason I wanna make sure I have enough time to schedule it, because I
Yeah.
probably have to
If,
send
if,
up with
if we
them
do
too.
it this month or next month or
Yeah.
what, just, I think what Craig's trying to do is, move it along and move on to something else.
Right,
That's
I
what you're
think we
trying to do,
can,
right?
I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure before I say we can, that we actually have the amount of days we need to post an ad in the
Yeah.
paper.
Gotcha.
And do all that stuff.
And as far as changing the subdivision regs, what do you want to do about that?
I mean, we could do, we could do the public hearing at the same time.
Well, let's do that. I mean, these are just adding stuff into the subdivision regulation.
And then they'll be there, and then if people have questions
Right.
to what, because it may affect people we don't know about, then they can ask.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Right, so there's gonna be two issues,
right,
floodplain and the,
subdivision and site plan
Subdivision.
regulations.
yeah.
As this is not something we're bringing forward, this is what they're requesting to come forward, so we're just doing our due diligence to make
And
sure
passing
people
it
know,
along to the town.
and the town decides.
And like I said, I think the only thing that is absolutely required for us to do, to pass, is the subdivision and site plan regulations. I'd have to double check with them, but that's the way I read their, because I think they understand if the town doesn't pass it, the town doesn't pass it. But we can do the other two. Any more happy
Okay.
discussion?
Good?
Anything else?
Anything else that we need to talk about?
Just
I got a couple of questions on something that's on here that I don't understand. We did our application procedures for driveways. Are we moving on to this one here or anything else?
Oh, that's
Well, we
right.
have driveway stuff on there, but I wanted to make sure, since they were coming in from the outside, that they went first.
Okay, so
Driveways.
we're doing number 5 now, right? The driveway regulation
So going
enforcement
in.
updates?
This,
They were just in case anybody had questions, right?
Right, I brought them just in case we wanted to look at anything.
Thank you.
And I wanted to update everybody on what was going on with the code enforcement stuff that we've been doing, and kind of tell you where we are on those. But Paul said he had a couple issues, so I'll let you go first.
The application procedures for a driveway permit, the process with the submission of an application from district engineer. Who is the district engineer?
So the district engineer, I'm going through this whole wonderful thing too, but that's who you deal with when you put a permit in. So they have an engineer that works at the DOT office that reviews all the driveway permits. That goes in, his whole job is reviewing permits,
only on state roads.
only
On
on state roads.
that's what I was gonna say, yeah,
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
and there's
Go
5
ahead.
districts in the state. So I would assume every
And
district
in
has their
Mr.
road
DeBello's case,
engineer.
he's not doing his job.
What was that?
In Mr. DeBello's case, he's
Right.
not doing his job.
Right, that's kind of the problem.
Okay.
Well,
So this section here pertains only to state highways.
yeah, that's why I put that in there, because
Okay.
that's out of the state's policy.
Yep.
And I highlighted the 120 days thing, because it's been over 120 days.
Although the weird thing is, it's like the 120 days doesn't count, does not include time necessary for review of preliminary conceptual designs in the case of major entrances, or time necessary for the applicant to respond.
That's what I'm kind of wondering, I'm just wondering what's holding it up.
Somebody not doing their job is what it sure sounds
You
like.
think? Oh my God. Just,
Okay, that answers my question on that.
good.
Now,
Good question, Paul.
I have a couple of questions on the minutes.
Okay.
What's the standing on the driveway at Pleasant Street?
That's what I was gonna bring up at the next agenda item. So I talked with the Pleasant Street people the other day about the trailer being moved, which, that was fun, that morning. And also about the driveway being open, because they said they opened the driveway to put a trailer onto the property, which they're moving from another property, which opened up a whole nother can of worms that I'm dealing with at the moment now too. So I talked with the owner, and then she said she's gonna come into the planning board, and she's gonna talk with everybody about the trailer being moved, and she's also more than happy to close off the driveway again. And I told her we could schedule a time for Emmett and Paul to talk to her about what you want for the barrier at the end of the driveway, and then we'll schedule a time for a re-inspect after the barrier's been put in.
Let me get this straight. They're taking the old trailer out and putting in a new one?
No, they're taking a trailer from another property and moving it onto that
So
property.
they're gonna have 2 trailers?
Well, They want to use the trailer as an addition to their house. So they gutted the trailer and then they're attaching it to the house. So it's one giant room. And they're putting,
Where are
I mean, it's just one right now, it's one trailer there.
well, no, there's a house there.
There is.
And then they're gonna attach the trailer to the house after they've already gone through and removed everything from the
Okay.
trailer.
All right.
So it's just one giant room.
All right, I got
Yeah, that's where I was.
I mean, how's that work?
Right, because I
That's
told them,
creative, Paul.
it. You take your chainsaw and cut out the trailer.
so that's gonna be another issue they're gonna come to the planning board about, because they're concerned with it being considered an accessory structure, but they're saying it's one giant room, it's not an accessory structure. They took the kitchen out, the bathroom out, they took everything
So
out.
it's just an addition to
So
their
it's just
house.
an addition to the house, not.
Do you have a picture, Paul?
He's trying to find where it is right now for me.
Well, I know where it is, but you guys don't know where it is?
No, I know where
Let me-
Pleasant
let me
Street
find
is,
it
but
for
that's about it.
I know where it is, and it's been a couple of years since I
Well,
looked at it.
Paul's looking on that one. I'll say the other driveway we were concerned with the second cut. That ZBA application was put in this week, and Rob will be going to the ZBA in September.
Where is this one?
That's on
Pleasant
Winnepocket
Street,
Road.
The
Oh,
dirt part of it.
oh,
This is
okay.
Detour
So that's,
Road,
that's the one that was a couple meetings ago.
Oh, yeah, they talked about,
somewhere
they
in
have
this.
a cut, and they put a whole bunch of equipment,
Had to get my bearings.
trailers and things
You
out
know where
there.
Detour Road is.
Well,
It's
no,
like-
I don't
Well,
want to.
Cookman's good.
But they didn't have the frontage for the second cut, so
Cookman's
put
Bridge
it in
comes
the
in.
application to the
Oh, okay.
ZBA.
Yeah.
Now the
Yeah.
ZBA is gonna review it, see if they wanna grant them the
Yeah,
variance for the
immediate
second
left is
driveway
Detour
cut.
Road.
Okay.
If they get the
But then you
variance
go
and
all
it's
the way
there,
out to the-
if they
where
don't
the
get the
flag corners are.
variance,
Yep.
Take
I think
another
Rob's
left,
pretty
and that's
amenable
Pleasant
to
Street.
closing
Okay.
off the driveway if he doesn't get the
And
variance.
if you
Okay,
go
all right.
all the
So
way in, it's
that's where we are on that one.
Oh, yes.
Those were the
yes,
two I
okay,
think we
okay.
were working on. Those were the two that we were working on, was Pleasant Street and
temp
What-
check.
What's,
Tom
we haven't
Chalk?
talked about that one yet. What's the number on Pleasant Street, Paul, do you?
I had it, but I don't
I
remember.
think it's,
Oh.
it's either 1063 or 1107, I think.
Yeah,
It's one of those two. I think 1063 is where the trailer went from, and it got put on to 1107, so I think it's 1107. I can get you a guarantee, I can send you an
I
email.
went down through
Yeah,
and looked at the
I can send
mailbox,
you an
and I just gave you the number that was on the mailbox, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the same, send all of us, and send us the Winnepocket address too.
90 Winnepocket's that one.
90?
Yep, no, off the top of my head. I'm working with his stuff, and for an update on Julie Tomchuk's application for a driveway, Paul, me discussed it. And I think we're both in agreement that we're gonna wait for the ZBA to make any decision before we move forward.
Which one's this?
That's the woman on Deer Meadow Road with the camper.
Oh,
Eye
yeah.
shaped.
And it's so full now of, that thing is like side to side.
So she's going to the ZBA on August 9th. The town is in a butter, so anybody who is on any board is welcome to come and speak as in a butter if they would like to.
So she's trying, so after we told her she had to move off, she's now
She
trying
filed for an appeal to
Okay.
the ZBA. She's
Okay.
also looking to get a variance to the setback requirements to build within the 20-foot setback in Pillsbury Lake, so she'll have enough space to put a house in.
Okay.
So that's where she stands right now,
And that's out of our hands.
and that's out of your, she put in the application, and it's now up to the zoning board to make a decision.
Plus
On
it's out of
both.
selectmen's hands.
I'm glad I'm not on the zoning board.
You know, I mean, they don't turn nobody down.
Really?
In my time on all these boards, they've never turned anybody down.
Is that,
Which is not right, because they should be going by the rules that the planning board set up.
unless there's a really good reason
Yeah.
not to.
Yep. And they don't get many of them, they don't meet only maybe once or twice a year.
Oh,
They only meet when they have something to talk about. Not like we come.
not like we have to meet
We
every
have to
month.
come in once a month and sit here and say hi and then goodbye. If we have, that's all we have to do.
Craig
We
says
have
we're
to
always
do
good
it.
at the goodbye.
Or,
Yeah.
or if it was that one where there were only two of us here, so
Yeah.
we had to,
And I was just almost here.
I'm glad actually you didn't make it, because then we can leave.
So we got those two. The Julie Tomchak one and that one. And what was the other one we had?
That was Mr. DeBello, we just dealt with
Mr.
that.
DeBello has been resolved at the moment.
Yeah, and then we have one other one that was brought up by an anonymous complaint in the Pillsbury Lake District. I asked Emmett about it, he said, yes, there have been multiple driveways put over in the last 2 years at that address. And the select board signed that code enforcement letter, and that went out in the mail today. They signed it on Monday, we put it out there. They have 30 days to respond, and then we'll move from there, and I'll have an update again once I hear back from them.
Okay,
And I think those were all the code enforcement
that's
stuff
all we talked about last month.
last
Now, I
time.
have one more for this month.
You want one more for this month? Because I'm trying to
Does
keep
he
our
get- does he-
applications.
He
Does he
keeps
get
us-
one more for this month?
Well, I could try to make it two, but I got one, it's a situation. 6 months ago,
Oh, yes, you wanted me to bring a permit in, I remember.
6 months ago roughly, we got a driveway application on Centennial Drive, and I can't at the moment tell you the number,
Oh, was this the one that was all wetlands and
Yep,
all wetlands, yes.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, I believe, here a little bit.
Paul Che?
Emmett and myself went out and we discussed what had to be done. We told him he had to put a culvert in and his driveway goes like
Yeah.
that. So we told him he had to meet the 5% grade for at least a car length. And after he got all that information, he would do his application.
And said he wasn't gonna do it, right?
And now he's doing it.
so he called me after that and said his plans were to put a set of stairs down to the lot. And that was what his plan was. I don't know what's happened since then. I know we've received several comments that somebody's parking their vehicle on the lot. And I did contact him, and he said it was his vehicle, so I wanted to make sure. It's like, I don't know if it's car. And if it's somebody else's car randomly parking on my property, I'd like to know. So I figured I'd let him
There's a
know.
whole bunch of crap on that property.
That's what he's got right now. I went by there Monday and took a picture.
Yeah,
He's got
Ooh.
a vehicle down in there, and he's got stones down in there to make a driveway.
yeah.
All right, so what are our options here?
Well, I would say at the moment, we need to have the select board get in touch with him and either put it back to where it's supposed to be or continue with his driveway permit.
Yeah,
I think that would be the next step. We'd go up to the, do you want to refer, no, that's up to you if you want to refer it, but I think that makes sense.
Well, we should.
Again, you gotta be fair to everyone, and it
Yes,
would be really fair.
Well, we should,
And if
First
it's just
of all-
because he didn't like the rules that we put out for him,
Right.
no reason why he can't, he can do what he's doing.
right,
He's got wetlands all around him, and you
Yeah.
can see in here where his stones are, there's wetlands way out in there, and he's got stones out in there.
yeah. It's.
You walked in with me.
Yeah.
I was out
it's
there, Craig and I
it's-
went out.
Yeah, it's, I agree with you 100%. It's,
This one I should have brought up
he's
last
kind
month.
of a hard guy to work with. I mean, I don't remember, he came in and he just talked the whole time.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like, if, you know, the more he talked.
But
so-
I thought we were pretty clear that
Yes.
as long as he did what was required, the wetlands issue was gonna be his own issue
It's gonna
at that
be,
point, you
yep.
know what I mean? I mean,
Yep.
we're not, yes, but you know what I mean, we're not, here's what you're gonna do, what Emmett had told him to do, that's what you gotta do to get your driveway permit. And if he breaks a wetlands, if he violates wetlands, then then he's on, that's on him.
That's on
But now
him.
he's just, now he withdrew and not doing anything right.
Can I make a suggestion? Or maybe put it in motion. Well, we should send him a letter, a joint letter with the select board.
Yeah.
And just saying that you're in violation of our agreement as to the driveway. And it looks like you've gone ahead and made a driveway not
With
to,
with no approval,
with no approval.
no construction
Uh,
permit.
And you're either going to, your choices are either to upgrade that driveway according to spec,
Mhm.
or remove the vehicle and put the site back in its original state.
That sounds good.
I'll make that in terms of a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that can be done.
I mean, fair is fair.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're making other people go through hoops,
Yeah.
all the rules.
And he
All of a
just-
sudden, he
He
decides,
just, he's just gonna do it.
even after all the time we gave him.
I know, it took a long time.
I mean that nicely, I just mean,
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that to our attention. Paul.
I mean, normally I have not had to bring anything in front of the board because we've been able to resolve it, but
Yeah,
there's
Yeah.
been a rash of them this year.
yeah,
Well, we'll get them fixed. One way or the other.
That's it, that's all I got. Until I think of something else.
So,
save it for next
wait,
month,
we have to approve, we have to approve last month's minutes.
approve last month's minutes.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from the June meeting.
How many people have read it?
I did.
I did.
Okay.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, good.
I just read it just now.
We get our email from Russ,
You weren't
and today
listening?
I looked
Is that why it's
through and
16?
say,
Did you
okay.
read that?
Did you second it, Craig?
No, I didn't. Are there any
I can
discussion?
walk and talk.
I'll
Did
second
anybody-
it.
oh, good,
I'll
there.
second it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, now we gotta
All
close the
right.
meeting.
I
Hour
think-
and 5.
We're,
That's
we
the longest
normally
one.
meet we're done, right? We're
Well,
adjourned.
somebody's gotta close the meeting, make a motion to close.
I move the adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I'm gonna go turn off the camera.
Good. So normally we meet the third Thursday, is that
Yes.
right? I will probably be in the air in September. I'm going to Sweden for a week.
Ooh, you gonna commute?
Because that would be, I think I fly back on the
Are we being